All right, so MAF is based on knowing how to multiply and knowing how to add. You have to know how to multiply, you have to know how to add. You have to know how to multiply, you have to know how to add. So before we started MAF with variables, we did it with just numbers. So when they ask you to find two numbers that multiply to 15 and add up to 8, we figure out all the ways that we can multiply to 15, and then we start adding those parts up to figure out what adds up to 8. It's just like playing the lottery, there's only one combination that works. It's just like the lottery, there's only one set of numbers that's going to hit. That's what we did on the start off Monday. Then we actually started MAF. So MAF is a 3-step process. So let me take out my highlighter, highlight 3 steps. First step is to look for the greatest common factor. So the greatest common factor is find the biggest number, figure out if they have the same variable, flip the page. There you go. And then multiply to get the greatest common factor. If the greatest common factor is 1, then you can go directly to the next step. We go directly to the next step. There's stuff in step 1, there's stuff in step 2, there's stuff in step 3. So step 2. Step 2, we do MAF. So MAF, M is the last term. So that was 48. A is the middle term, 16. Find two numbers that multiply to 48 and add 16. Which we wrote out all the ways we could multiply. 4 plus 12 is the only one that gives you 16. So 4 and 12 was the numbers we were going to use. Third step was to write your answer in 2 parentheses. So this was step 3. Let me blow this up just a little bit, just in case people can't see it. You take your original problem, write it in 2 parentheses. Since the variable came first, you put the variable in, and then 12 and 4 were your 2 numbers, you put those in. So that's factored. So the order that the parentheses go don't matter. These two can go in any order. Well, the variable comes first. So example 1 was done for you. We did examples 2, 3, and 4 together in class. So example 5 is where we left off with. So any questions before we do example 5? You got any questions of mine? Any questions, anyone at home? Okay, you know you have questions. If you know you are stuck, you have to ask for help. It's starting to get late in the game. All right, so let's get things off with example 5. So example 5, we have x squared minus 8x minus 33. first thing we're going to do is start off with greatest common factor. So step 1, GCF. So we look for the biggest number. We look for the biggest number. There's a 1 in front of x squared, there's an 8, and there's a 33. So we first have to ask ourselves, is there anything that will divide into 1, 8, and 33? And of course that answer is no. There's nothing that divides into all three of them. So your biggest number is 1. Next one. Same variable. Does everything have the letter X in it? No. Same variable means the same letters in every part of the problem. So your GCF is just 1. Since your greatest common factor is 1, you can just move on. Step 2. Now we work out MAF. So M is the last term. That's negative 33. A is the middle. That's negative 8. So we need two numbers that multiply to negative 33 and add up to a negative 8. We need two numbers that multiply to negative 33 and add up to negative 8. So this is when knowing your multiplication comes into play. Now here's where it comes into play. So let's start with 33. What are all the ways I can multiply to 33? On side, there's only two ways to multiply to 33. So you got 11 times 3. So since you need a negative 33, either the 11 has to be negative or the 3 has to be negative. So there's one other way that I can multiply to 33. And it's the easy way. The easy way to multiply numbers. 1 times 33. So the 1 could be negative, or the 33 could be negative. So those are the 4 ways that you can multiply. 4 ways you can multiply. But now we got to figure out what adds up to negative 8. So now we're going to add all these up. Negative 11 plus 3, which is this first one. Negative 11 plus 3, that's negative 8. There you go. All the other ones don't work. 11 plus negative 3 is positive 8. Negative 1 plus 33 is 32. That doesn't work. 1 plus negative 33 is negative 32. That doesn't work. This is the only option that works. That's the only option that works. Any questions before we write our answer? Now we're at a point where we can write the answer. Again, don't sit there, be on mute, sitting on your couch and stuff, and you whole time don't know what you're doing. Total math can't do everything for you. Step 3, time to write the answer. Step 3, time to write the answer. So to write the answer, your original problem was x squared minus 8x minus 33. Open up 2 parentheses. You got 2 parentheses. The variable is x squared, so that goes into each parentheses. The 2 numbers that you just got goes next. So there's your factored in. So it's not hard, you just gotta do a little work. Like I said, photo math can't do everything for you. All right. Questions on example 5? Any questions at home on example 5? Morgan, make sure you keeping up.
One was the biggest because the rest of them are negative.
No, the reason why 1 was the biggest number is because if you look at 1, 8, and 33, there's no number that they share other than the number 1. There's no number that divides into all of them other than the number 1. All right, let's move to example 6. Example 6, you got y squared plus 18y plus 81. Y squared plus 18y plus 81. So we follow the exact same process. We're following the exact same process. So, step 1. Step 1, GCF. So we have to find the biggest number. Biggest number means it can come out of everything. There's a 1 there, there's an 18 there, there's an 81 there. So there's only one way to multiply times 1. 1 times 1. That means your biggest number is 1. There's only one way you can get 1. So look at it this way. If one of your numbers is 1, you know that the biggest number is going to be 1. Because there's only one way you can get 1. Variable. Do we have the same variable in every part of the problem? No. 81 doesn't have a variable. So that means your GCF is 1. GCF is 1. Since your greatest common factor is 1, we can keep it moving. All right, so step 2. So step 2 is when we do the MAF. So again, M is the last number, 81. A is the middle number, which is 18. We need two numbers that multiply to 81 and add up to 18. So F is the two numbers. We need to multiply to 81 and add to 18. So what can we use? So 1 times 81, if we add 1 and 81, that's 82. We can do a grid chart with the factors on the sheet right there.
Yeah.
So if you add 3 and 27,
If you using this, what are you using?
so 1 times 81 gives you 81. Well, 1 plus 81 is 82. You need 18. 9 times 9. So there's only 3 ways that you can multiply the 81. 1 times 81, 3 times 27, 9 times 9. If you add those up, 1 plus 81 is 82. That's not going to work. 3 plus 27 is 30. That's not going to work. 9 plus 9 is 18. So there's your numbers. The whole time I think some people were scared to pick that because they saw that they were the same number. Who cares? Who told you they couldn't be the same number? Don't act scared. Right now, if you get it wrong, what's the worst thing that could happen? The worst thing that could happen right now if you get it wrong. You show the whole world that you're human. All right, step 3. Step 3, time to write the answer. So here's our problem. We open up 2 parentheses. The y's go in 1 parentheses. Well, they go with both, 1 in each. The 9's go in parentheses. Why is it plus? Because it was positive. Y plus 9 and y plus 9. So you can write the answer like this, or since you're multiplying 2 of the same thing, you can write it as y plus 9 squared. Either way is acceptable. You write it either way, it's fine. So, any questions? Example 6. I'll leave that part over there. So, example 7. Z squared minus 49. So, how many terms do you see? You see 3 terms up there? So the 2 is not a term, that's an exponent. So that's attached to the Z. Yeah. 1 term, 2 terms. So you're missing the middle term. 2 terms. You're missing the middle term. So you're missing the middle term. So we're going to fill it in. We're going to fill it in. So since we're missing the middle, we're going to fill it in with a 0. We're going to fill it in with the number 0. So why are we filling it in? Because we can't do MAF unless you have 3 terms. That's 1. 2, if you have a 0, did you change the problem? What happens if you add 0 to something? Nothing. Didn't change anything. So if I put a 0 into the problem, it changes nothing. So we still have the same problem, we just have a 0. And now we're able to solve the problem. It's just as like if you need to reach something that's in a high place, you go get a ladder. You didn't change how big your room is, you just got a ladder so that you can actually do whatever it is you're supposed to do. So now that we have 3 terms, we're going to do this problem. So, step 1, greatest common factor. So you've got a 1, a 0, and a 49. So this is real easy. Biggest number is 1. The only number that can divide in is 1. Only number that can divide in is 1. I hope Luke paid attention, because Luke's a little funny actor when it comes to showing his work. He comes real close to getting 0 credit on some of the stuff. Hopefully he's showing his work. Same variable. Do we have the same variable? No. 49 doesn't have a Z on it. So your greatest common factor is 1. Greatest common factor is 1. So since the greatest common factor is 1, nothing changes. Go to step 2. Step 2, we do MAF. So M is the last number, that's negative 49. A is the middle number, which is 0. So we need 2 numbers that multiply to negative 49 and add up to 0. Multiply to 49 and add up to 0. Multiply to 49 and add up to 0.
You got it. 7 and 7. If you want people to do negative 7.
So we know 7 times 7 is 49. You need it to add up to 0. Make one of them negative. Make one of them negative. Negative 7 times negative 7 is negative 49. Negative 7 plus 7 is 0. No one said you couldn't make one of them negative. So we got our two numbers. Any questions before we finish the problem? So, Ron should be paying attention. Ty should be paying attention. So step 3, answer time. Step 3 is answer time. Take our problem, divide it into 2 parentheses. The variable goes first, and our numbers go second. V minus 7 and V plus 7. So, example 7 is actually a special case. Which is called the difference of two squares. That's called the difference of two squares. Both problems on the screen here. Questions on 6 or 7. There we go. Got them both on the screen. Along with problem 5. Not hard. Just work. Not hard, just work. Always ask yourself, do I have time to do it right, or do I have time to do it over? So keep in mind, when you do it over, now that takes time away from stuff that you would rather be doing. Stuff that you would rather be doing, classes that you would rather be taking. All right, so every single one of these has had a greatest common factor of 1. Every single one of them. So now let's finally do a problem that has a greatest common factor that's not 1. Before we do that, let me remind you quickly about the IXL that is due on tomorrow. So let me pull that up right now. So come on up here. IXL. So of course I'll sign in. So IXL is due tomorrow. Ooh, we got 3 people on here. Let me be nosy real quick. Who on that? Who on IXL? We got Nala. Oh, we got LaRon that's on here, and well, Demaya, she stopped already. So, hey, LaRon's on there. Oh, look at that. Noah's on there. So we're on AA4. Factoring quadratics with a leading coefficient of 1. So again, these problems are no different than what we've been working on. They're absolutely no different. H squared plus 6h plus 5. Right on here, that's fine. So h squared plus 6h plus 5 So you find your greatest common factor. So you would find your greatest common factor. Then you would look for finding two numbers that multiply to 5 and add to 6. And then you would solve your problem out. So same rules apply. Pretty much same rules apply. So that's what AA4 is asking you to do. That's what AA4 is asking you to do. So that's the homework assignment that's due on tomorrow. If I skip ahead in the problems, so we're up to a score of 43, and you get a problem like that, same problem. A score of 72, still the same type of problem. Gets up to a 90, which is that first level of extra credit, still the same type of problem. So all of these are same type of problem. All of them are the exact same type of problem. So should be pretty easy to get it knocked out. So now let's deal with the greatest common factor. So at some point, we're going to have to deal with the greatest common factor. So here we go. Greatest common factor with MAF. So the first example I did for you, so we're simply going to walk through that example, look at how to do it. And all you need to do is to follow along and ask questions as you have it. So the first step is still the same. Step 1 is still the same. Greatest common factor. You have a 3, you have a 30, and you have a 63. So now you have a number that will divide out. 3. 3 divides out all of those. 3 divides out everything. And each one has the letter T. Everything has the letter T. 3T, so your greatest common factor is 3 times T, which is 3T. So, if you have a GCF, you must divide it. If you have a GCF, you must divide it. So there's your original problem. There's your original, divided by 3T. That's how you get T squared minus 10T plus 21. That's your first step. Any questions? Step 1. Sure. Okay. All right, step 2. Step 2 is the MAF step. So 3T, you don't need to touch anymore. It's done. Now we're just worried about the parentheses. Last term is 21. Middle term is negative 10. So you need two numbers that multiply to 21 and add to negative 10. That's negative 7 and negative 3. Negative 7 and negative 3. Step 2 is to do the MAF. Step 3, so I the answer. So here's to write the answer. So just like we did on the first page, take the parentheses, or take the problem, break it into two parentheses. T squared goes in each parentheses. And your two numbers go in the other parentheses. It's the exact same thing that we did on the front. You just had to divide something out outside. It's the exact same thing. Put it all in one screen. Any questions before we do example 2? Of course, I have to make sure that those people who are trying to get the extra credit have a little something to know how to do it. You don't just give away extra credit all willy-nilly. If anything, you already got your extra credit all willy-nilly. You got extra credit for my birthday. You can't complain no more about extra credit. You don't pass the class, that's on you. You just got 37 points for free on Monday. If you don't pass the class now, that's on you. So let's do example 2. So example 2. 5x squared minus 45x plus 100. The first thing we do is the greatest common factor. So 5, 45, 100. What can I divide out? What can I take out of all three numbers? 5. Divide them all by 5. So biggest number, 5. Do we have the same variable? The same letter in each part? No. So that means your greatest common factor is 5. But that means you got to divide it out. You have a greatest common factor, you will be dividing it out. 5x squared minus 45x plus 100. Divide everything by 5. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. 45 divided by 5 is 9. 100 divided by 5 is 20. Five goes back out the front. No. Any questions before we continue? All right, so let's keep it moving. So we did GCF, and it's time for MAF. Or right there. I'm going to do something. So 5 parentheses x squared minus 9x plus 20. So now we're picking up from where we left off. So your M is your last number, last term, is 20. Your A is your middle, -9. So you need two numbers that multiply to 20 and add to -9. So, you need two numbers that multiply to 20. What is it?
I'm trying to make it like add up and-
Well, get the 20 first. We can always make the numbers work. So 5 times 4. So 5 times 4 gives us 20, but we'll add up to a positive number. So all we need is a negative, so make both of them negative. The only thing was wrong is that they weren't negative. You had the right numbers. So there's your 2 numbers. Now we can write our answer. Go back to where we left off. Open up 2 parentheses. So x squared becomes x and x. -5 and -4. One dot first. There's your final answer. Again, the whole time is not hard, but you gotta do some work. There's step 1, there's step 2, there's step 3. Any questions before we go over the homework? It's going to be due on Tuesday. You got a quiz due on Monday. All right.